Alright, let's see. Alright, just came home from work a while back. So first thing I did earlier when I came home was there was this game from 2700chess.com. It was just played today. On the bus, I was going through the site, like the latest games that were played. Uh, I like to follow this site just for fun. And there was this game that popped up. It was with the one decisive result, so I clicked on it while I was on my phone on the bus. Flicked through the moves, and I thought, hey, you know what? When I get home, let's go through it. So I copied and pasted it into here, and I quickly went through it, and it was interesting because I liked this move c4 here while I was looking through it on my phone on the bus. Popped up. It was interesting to me because it just seems like an interesting idea. Like I don't know the theory, I don't play the Ruy Lopez at all, so it was interesting to me to see the c4 move. So I went home, checked it just now, and apparently c3 is also played, but c4 just looks interesting because you don't usually see white playing c4 in the Ruy Lopez like this. So let's go back what happened in this game quickly here. a6 is standard. Of course, knight f6 would be the Berlin, which I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about this either, but okay, bishop a4 there. Castles in d3. So I like to steal ideas. So like if this is the latest game played, I'm gonna try playing d3 myself very soon here like this. And then what this does is it's already forcing black to do something about this e5 pawn, because usually when you take, black takes back and you take here, it's not a real pawn sacrifice because black can win it back by taking on e4 somehow, right? But here after d3, e4 is guarded, so now black has to take this threat seriously. So two ways to deal with the threat. One way is b5 because now there's no bishop takes knight, so this can still guard the pawn. And I don't know what happens after that. Some shit like this. Just like a possible variation, whatever, who knows. But d6 is the other way to deal with this. And now I think white has to do something about this threat of b5 and then probably knight a5. Because now that the pawn is guarded, the knight can go to a5 to harass the bishop once it ends up on b3. So just to give an example, let's say white didn't play c3 or c4, played something like h3, then you can see the engine evaluation already dipping in black's favor, because after b5 here, knight a5, possible because d6 is guarding e5, and white has to exchange off this awesome bishop with a stupid looking knight. This is not good, which is why c4 or c3 are played in this position. I don't know why a3 is not played very often, but it has the same idea. Then after this, the bishop has a retreat square. I think it's because it's too committal here, and the pawn, you would rather just do something with it in the future, so you can end up moving the pawn twice anyways. That's my guess. Okay, but anyways, okay, so c4 played h3. I was also looking at what happens if black plays bishop g4 this early, but then I guess knight d4 is not a threat yet, so white is going to develop, and then you can even put the so this is what happens. So the knight, I was looking at some lines that ends up on d2, I believe, and to do that you want to get the bishop out first. So that's why the bishop e3 went out really early, and then here after something like queen c2 or whatever, or maybe not queen c2, but something. I mean, with the knight guarding this pin is no problem at all. g4 is even played in some positions, I guess, but whatever. Let's keep going here. What happened in the game? Um, And now, so after, you see that after all this while, knight d4 was not a threat because you would just chop it and maybe play knight e2 and then you have a free play on the king side. But after bishop f6, now knight d4 becomes a real pain in the ass, I think. That's just what I'm guessing, because why else would white take the knight in position? Well, let's go back here. After bishop f6, white chopped the knight because I guess now knight d4 was a real thing. So let's say if you just calmly played rook, yeah, see knight d4. And now it's a pain in the ass because you cannot take with the knight because of the pawn fork. Hence, you have to take with the bishop, but then you're losing a bishop to, and then you can bolster it with c5. So it makes sense to chop the knight now. And you're willing to do this because you put all your pawns on the white squares. This is a shitty looking bishop. So it makes sense to trade off the white squared bishop in this position. And now c5, nice. And this allows white some play, queen a4, but this is the move. Okay, so at some point here, this move is really instructive to me because fuck, I'm tired. I'm gonna go talk about this. But okay, it's a move that I would never play in myself in a game until I saw this because it's like, why would you play here when Rook B8 would just get played? Like, what's the point of this stupid looking move? It's a one move threat. But no, if you go deeper, White has seen that after Rook B8, there's DC, DC, and then Bishop A7, kicking out the Rook, and then you pick up the Bishop. But then the question for me pops up in my mind is like, how would I see such a tactic in the future? Well, the idea is you always want to be looking for tactical motifs in the position. That's what lets you see the tactics. So here you've got an unprotected piece. That's the motif. Now, a person like me would play thinking dogmatically, I wouldn't examine this because it's like whatever, Rook B8. But no, this is this is a motif in the position, so you look further. Like once your eye it goes to that unprotected piece, then you might look further, and then you see after Rook B8, it's actually not a real defense because this is always there. Which means after this, Black is forced to defend the bishop with the queen, which is a stupid looking defense because the queen would has to kind of shift over to the side here, where it would rather, and it's away from the action in the center and the king side. But back here, the question then is, why didn't White play it one move sooner right here? Let's answer this question right now. I don't know why. Maybe it's the same deal. Yeah, Rook FD1 anyways, engine recommends, so it would have been a transposition, but okay. Let's keep going here. I like this. It's instructive. And then this is the second instructive move from Black's side, because this is, again, a move I would never entertain playing as Black, but somehow, tactically, it works, because um, it's a pawn sacrifice initially, but then after this move, Black has seen that, like, first of all, if queen takes, this b2 pawn is dropping, and something is going to happen on this diagonal, right? Either this you're going to get that knight, you're going to get this pawn, or you're going to chop this knight on f3 and double White's pawns, in which case Black being a pawn down is not a big deal because this pawn structure is shattered and Black has pressure down the b file. And if the queen doesn't take, I mean, in all these lines, it's it's not worth calculating. Like my older self would have been calculating every single line, trying to find, but then I would miss moves like this because there's too much to calculate, and you wouldn't even think about calculating down this line. But you have to think about how the positions held together, the motifs and stuff. Okay, so the way to see this is after taking. These are the threat like targets like this, and this is only guarded by the queen, which can be taken away. If the queen is taken away from this position, then b2 is falling. If the queen is taken away from this position, this knight is falling. If the knight moves somewhere, this knight gets chopped, and that's compensation. So that's kind of how you think about it, and then the, then you can maybe have a chance of seeing this kind of a defense and recognizing why Black is not that much worse here. Takes. And you notice now White has to do something about this happening. These double pawns, in which case White's extra pawn is not helping, and this threat, in which case also White's extra pawn is not really doing much. So we get this move, and this is another interesting decision that White chose these double pawns as opposed to these two. Chose to go down this avenue because ostensibly they seem really weak, but then when you see the game, you see that they're not actually it somehow it turned out all right for White. So let's see. In the game he took, no, I think when I was looking through it, I thought Black should have taken, and the engine says so too. Because if you don't take, then that knight is hopping into e5 next, and it caused Black a lot of problems in the game. So I think here it just takes, and then knight d5, let's say, and like I could be wrong, but I mean, yeah, the bishop is better than the knight. I don't know what's going on here. White is up a pawn, I guess, but I think it's just the lesser of evils. Black can hold this position, probably enough play down here. But the way Black played, trying to hold on to everything, not giving away the bishop, lets the knight pop into some good squares. And then now I think Black's just worse. Although, again, this pressure made me uncomfortable, and I don't know how I would deal with it in a real game. But then somehow White has evaluated that he has enough defenses. The reason being, yes, Black can potentially double up on that pawn, and then you look at White's position, he's only got one defender. Rook cannot go there because of this. That scared me. But then the Grandmaster has seen that he can also create enough targets in Black's position that Black doesn't get a chance to double up the rooks because this pawn would hang if the knight sits here, right? Um, and this, so it's a very dynamic kind of, yeah. And you see that, yeah, whatever. And then this move is very interesting too. Like, what the hell is this doing, right? And there's a kind of engine-looking line for instant advantage is white. This and then and the way you think about it is that this rook doesn't have many squares. It has to defend the pawn. This is the only square where it can keep defending the pawn. And after this, you have to recognize that this is always a real threat. So knight e3, and then rook c5, and you will get that pawn march in, and then you're crushing, right? But that's a hard line to see. But although, as I think about it, like with words, then it's like okay, it makes sense. You can find that idea. And c6 is a move you would look at because the rook only has one option really in that position, right? I mean, unless he plays something like this, which is an engine thing, which no human would be thinking about playing. Although I'd be scared of shit like this, honestly. But I don't fucking whatever it works. But okay, so c6 was like an instant kill, but he played bishop d2, which engine that thinks it's equal, but somehow black kind of falters immediately after, which is a psychological thing that happens a lot. But okay, won't go into that. So what's going on here? Not much going on. Fuck. And then somehow shit gets trapped. Whatever. All good. Then white wins. Okay, good enough. So that game, why was it valuable to me to go through it, and why am I going to go through more games? It gave me some interesting insights, like that queen b3 move, recognizing tactical motifs. What else? Yeah, basically, what I take away from this game, it's very important to recap what you took away concretely in words so that you remember the lesson. Otherwise, these lessons are very vague in your mind, and you don't it doesn't stick with you. Like, let's say I wake up tomorrow morning, I'll have forgotten what happened in this game, whatever lessons, unless I am very explicit about recapping in words what happened. Same thing with memorizing anything, reading a book, whatever. If you want to take it away, be very explicit about what you took away. So yeah, it was recognizing motifs to find high level moves, like queen g3 and stuff, and also the theory, of course. Like now I'm gonna start playing this d3 move because it's very interesting that you get to play c4 here. I like this idea. How to deal with it. Just interesting overall. Anyways, enough of this. But then I played a game. I just played this game where it was. I played e4 hoping to get into the Ruy Lopez because I just gone through that theory that game, and it actually did end up being a whatever Ruy Lopez, except he played d6, which what is this? The old Stannis defense. And of course, I'm not an e4 player, but just learning some shit. Whatever. Castles. I didn't actually know how to deal with this. Let's go through it right now. Let's analyze it right now a little bit. c3. Okay. I played queen e2 because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Not a bad move, but it's inaccurate because now I can kind of verbalize it. I can think about why. Because if you're going to put a piece here on the e file anyways, you may as well use a rook because the rook is going to have to go somewhere anyways. And if you're going to play d3 or d4, you might as well have the queen back there. Whereas, and here you're using two pieces to do two different functions, right? Whereas after queen e2, I'm taking the queen away from a function that was already kind of doing there on the d file. And the rook is a better piece to place there. So it's like just logically, it makes sense why queen e2 is an inferior move to rook e1. Fair enough. Okay. Now I played d3 because I was scared of d4 with my queen on e2, right? If the center opens up. And I'm not going to fault myself too much for whatever inaccuracy the engine thinks I made. Is d3 ranked? That's a second move, but whatever, I'll take it. Good enough. Okay, all good. Life is good. Now here, why didn't I go to b3? Because I thought he gets some tempos with this kind of shit. Like if I go here, knight a5, and yeah, the engine agrees. Because then although I kind of think that black has wasted time moving the knight around. It's on the side of the board, so maybe this is not so bad after all. But the engine agrees. It's better just to go to c2 right away. So okay, right intuitive decision there. What the hell's going on here? All right, let's think about this logically. So I played knight b2 dogmatically, just worried about the sacrifice. I thought let's keep shit guarded. But I mean, come on, what is the threat? There's no threat. And if there's no threat, then logically it makes sense to put the bishop out, then bring the knight out after, so you're not locking in the bishop. That was stupid. That was whatever. Logically, it makes sense why knight b2 is an inaccuracy. Okay. Fuck it, good enough. Now, why is this an inaccuracy? Okay, I didn't even think about this tactically. I just like quickly played this, not even thinking about what's going on in the position. Stupid. Let's think about it. What's going on in this position. All this shit seems very weak. All right, but the stupid queen is on the line of the rook, so I feel bad about opening up the center. But let's see. If I took here, knight takes. Can I get away with this? Probably not, because and engine agrees. It says takes, but where's the discovery here? Where is this bishop going? Ah, because this is hanging back there. So he can go anywhere, really. And then I can't run with the queen because the rook back there is unprotected. So it's too hasty to take that pawn yet. So why is the engine saying this is okay? Is it because of d4 or something? No. Okay, so because just the light squares are kind of weak. So even a move like this, hitting this now. Okay, but let's say he plays something like this. What's going on? It keeps recommending bishop b3, which makes sense. Like if he plays this, play knight g5, right? Yeah. Okay, so what this tells me, sometimes it's okay to open up the center a little bit like this. If you're light squared bishop, you can fucking. What is it saying? Apart from e takes d, what else is good? Bishop b3 again. Putting pressure. Let him take, and then I get to open up my pieces. Although here I'm not sure what I would take back with. Amazingly saying knight g5 intermezzo. Hit that. Let's see, he goes rook f8. What am I doing next? Is this? Yeah. Very, very interesting. Okay. It's bishop e3. Playing the knight. There. Good enough. Sack. I wasn't worried about this. And amazing. Okay, so my defense is actually the right one. Because I thought let's trade off queens. I'm not happy about this. Okay, it's just a thumbs up. It's good. Good enough. Everything's good enough. Good enough. It doesn't like this for some reason. Yeah, it's saying don't trade queens. Ah, because I had a awesome opportunity here to play rook g1. Amazing. So this is an example of getting kind of fixed in your thinking. Again, playing dogmatically, right? Like I was so bent on trading queens for the last like 4 moves or something that I didn't think, you know what? Now the tide has turned. The position has changed. Now I can actually attack him. And if you're attacking, and plus, why was I trading queens? So always like break it down logically. Okay, why was I trading queens before? It was because I was worried about my king. Now that the position shit has been traded off, my king is not in any danger whatsoever, except maybe something like this, but enough guardians there. So now I don't need to trade queens anymore. I'm up material. I've got the attack. Think differently. Okay, but I just dogmatically flick this out. No, king h1, followed by rook g1. Killer. So there. Yeah. Here I thought, let's trade rooks, but then I thought, you know what, I have an attack there, so let's give him the 2 rooks. Nice. I was actually contemplating king g2, but I didn't want to allow any bullshit after this, because then I was thinking king f3, uh, and then who knows what's going on, right? But so I thought let's just play very safe, like this. Ah, it doesn't like this. That's very strange. Okay, it's because I cannot keep the bishop on this diagonal. It's too early to sack, so I don't get time. No, don't I get time to play this? What's going on here? King g7. Don't I get time to play this? I don't know, maybe my attack isn't going anywhere after this. Interesting. So what does it recommend instead? It recommends, is it something like this? So this is another example of playing dogmatically, getting stuck on my idea and not thinking how has the position changed? What's going on here? There's a loose piece here, loose piece here, loose piece here. And once you recognize the motifs, then you start coming with the right moves. Then okay, queen d2 makes a lot of sense because I'm hitting this and I'm headed there next. That's killer, absolutely killer. You can find the moves once you break down the logic, what's actually going on. not just playing dogmatically. That's kind of the takeaway today, really. Nice. Okay, good. Took away something from this game. All right. So let's just play another game and do the same thing again.